experience and detail how we navigate all of these systems. So I hope you enjoy it and have a good time. Hi, so welcome everyone to Coils, and Conversation 2022. It is the final episode of redefining our standards of beauty. It is my great pleasure to be your co-host for this evening. My name is Raven Khadija, and I would like to also introduce my co-host, Miss Niala. You can go ahead and speak.
Hi, my name is Niala.
So a bit about Niala. She, how pronounced she and her. She is a 9-year-old and she plays soccer. She is a BLM youth activist. She's also been a part of the first ever cultural inclusion camp where she gave quite a lot of her experiences. She's actually, I believe, to credit for our success. Really, when the media came to visit us, she really had she just was ready for the camera. And I really believe that she really was credited to all of us as being the top story for that night. So thank you so much. It's really my pleasure to be a part of hosting this because it's so important as Black women and femmes to really have spaces where we can speak, where we can discuss things without feeling any different type of way. And this will actually be aired on Rogers, I believe on March the 3rd. And I think it's Channel 9, but don't quote me on that. And I'll be sure to give you all the information, the correct information. And we will also be airing this to our Black Lives Matter page on our website that will be launching shortly. So without further ado, I'll go straight into introducing our panelists for this evening. First up, we have Olivia Rollins. She is a grade 12 student at Holy Trinity High School. She teaches children English, plays musical instruments, bakes, cooks, and creates art. She recently instilled a Black History Month curriculum into her school, making it the first Black History Month to happen at Holy Trinity. She and a few other teachers banded together to help educate people on Black history and its importance in all of its aspects. She has been interviewed on Out of the Fog for these accomplishments and has many more interviews to come. We certainly hope so. Next, we have Laura Bell Imba. She is a constituency assistant, a fund development coordinator, and a mom to a 3-year-old little boy. She recognizes the current disparities in society for BIPOC and marginalized and underrepresented communities and lends her voice and experience to bring their concerns and struggles to the decision-making table. As a member of the Anti-Racism Coalition of Newfoundland and Labrador, a member of both St. John's Status Women Council and the Happy City St. John's, she works with a wide variety of like-minded individuals to improve the experiences of marginalized communities in our province. We're very happy to have you here. Next, we have Ms. Anna Sedano. She has been an educator for 25 years. She's done exchanges in Norway, Barbados, and Japan. She's also an advocate for education and for people who suffer with sickle cell anemia. We also have Sparkle Alexander. Sparkle is a guidance officer and child and youth advocate working with the Ministry of Education in Trinidad and Tobago. She holds a bachelor's degree in behavioral sciences from Andrews University, a bachelor's degree in psychology from the University of the Southern Caribbean, and is in her final year of her master's degree program in child and youth studies at the University of the West Indies. She's the mother of two wonderful children, Sapphire 19 and Aidan 12. Also, her daughter Sophia advocates for young women and LGBTQ youth through her organization, Caribbean Feminists, and through her work with several international organizations. Sparkle has had a passion for child and youth advocacy since the age of 15. She realized that children needed someone in their lives who stood up for them, believed in them, and encouraged them, something that was missing from her own childhood. She has worked with children from diverse backgrounds, as well as marginalized groups, including differently able youth, at-risk youth in communities plagued by high crime and poverty rates. She has been working with children and youth for over 12 years now, but you wouldn't be able to tell it when you look at her. Sparkle hopes to pursue a PhD at Memorial University and to continue her work in this sphere. So thank you so much for being here, everyone. We do have one more person who had a bit of a issue with a time disparity because, as you can see, Coils and Curls is something that we realize we want to impress is global. These issues do not happen on an individualistic nature. It affects Black women of all different backgrounds and ethnicities. It affects us all on a global level. So we had a little bit of a time disparity, and that is her name is actually Jahan Roberts. So she will be joining us hopefully soon. I would like to, before we go any further, I would like to give our land acknowledgement provided to us by the wonderful Drew Bernard, co-founder of the Indigenous Activist Collective.
Hey, good morning. I would like to acknowledge the land where we currently stand, the stolen Beothuk and Mi'kmaq territory, known as Kadamukuk, to the current living and growing Mi'kmaq people.
So moving forward with our questions, actually, before we even get to our questions, I would like to replay our very first ever poem. And I remember when I was really conceptualizing the idea for this event, I found this poem and I thought, wow, this is the first time I've ever heard or seen Black hair discussed in such a beautiful way. And you'll hear why. It's done by Lucinda Roy, who is an American writer and professor. It's called If You Know Black Hair. If you know Black hair, if you know, you really know Black hair. The way it feels like bunched up cloud or dense packed candy floss. If you know, you really know the smell of milky coconut easing through the careful braids or the relaxed curls of women just as bold with chemicals as all the white girls with their tightly perms. If you know all this, then you know that there is nothing softer, sweeter, tougher than Black hair. Look at how the rain perches like snow on foamy curls. Look at how the hair springs back to its original position. Look at how it struggles against the comb, reasserting itself like an old mother who's seen more than she ever wanted to. So when my mother smiles at my son's effervescent hair, and when I smile too, seeing bubbles brownly crown his head, we are rejoicing in the thing my father gave my son, a kind of indomitability. May it cling to his head like a memory. May hands that touch it feel the soft of strength. And I try to start with a poem to really center and ground us. And it's because a lot of the stuff that we're going to be discussing is not going to be particularly easy to discuss it. And for me, I think that's all the more reason why I'm so grateful for having such amazing panelists willing to really delve deeply into this. Because a lot of these things are, I mean, we don't really talk about it, but whenever Black women and femmes try to assert our control and assert how we feel, we're often asked to be quiet, or we feel pressures from the side and our peers to be quiet. It's very difficult sometimes for us to really step out of these bounds and really assert this is how we feel. So this again is a very safe space, and I'm excited to hear what everyone has to say. Again, everyone is welcome to answer a question. If it is that you feel like you have something to add to that, please indicate so. Other than that, we ask that you remain muted unless you're speaking, just so that we don't have any confusion to who is speaking. And yeah, honestly, I'm really excited to hear what everyone has to say, because it's hope everyone here has been asked for, because of their very incredible, diverse experience in working with youth, in being parents, in helping mold personalities. It's very important. So without further ado, I will go to our very first question, which is, how do you conceptualize beauty for yourself? And I will ask everyone actually, but I will start first with Laurel.
Oh, first up, okay, hot seat. For me, when it comes to my version of beauty for myself, it's something that I struggle with. So my family initially moved to Canada when I was 8. So I was born in Nigeria, raised in Nigeria, surrounded by Black people. My beauty was never something that was questioned that early in my youth. And then we moved to Canada, and yes, we moved to Toronto, which is very diverse, but still predominantly a white space. So as you're beginning to come into your womanhood and beginning to find yourself and figure out what's beauty, you're surrounded by all these ideals of Eurocentric beauty. So I have 4C type hair. It is kinky, it is curly, it is on the far end of everything. And that was the opposite of everything I saw in beauty. I vividly remember my mom relaxed my hair one winter and the entire back fell out. And that was the first time in my life where I was just like, shit, pardon my language, but I'm not going to be pretty. My hair is not straight. My hair isn't all there. I'm no longer going to be pretty enough. And that is a moment that stuck with me. And I've always had this battle with myself when it comes to my hair as to, is my hair pretty enough? Is my hair okay enough for the spaces I find myself in? And it wasn't till May 2018 was the first time I wore my hair out naturally in an afro in any space where it wasn't just my friends or my family. And I remember I called my mom 4 times before I left my house to go to work. I called my friends, I called my coworkers. I was like, I'm going to be coming with my afro. Is this going to be an issue? Is people going to talk? Are people going to look? Are people going to question my professionalism, my beauty, my value as a person because they're used to seeing me in a wig or a weave or something that they're not seeing the most authentic version of myself? And I remember how jarring that was for me for the first time to step into a space being as Black, as beautiful as I am. And that's something that I had struggled with. But that first step, I haven't turned back. I have had my hair out, and I have had my hair out more than I ever have in the last 3 to 4 years. And I'm going to be 30 this year. So 3 to 4 years is a very short period of time to embrace my natural beauty. And it's something that I am now loving. There is so much about protective style and all that is about Black hair and Black beauty that I'm discovering and falling in love with. And it is sad to me that it has taken 25 years for me to find that in myself. But I'm also really enjoying the fact that we're now in such a very connected world that I get to see other women going on this journey too. I'm not the first one who took 25 years to figure out that my afro is beautiful in all its self, that my hair can come in Black or blonde, and I can just embrace all the different adventures of defining that and being okay with it. I've struggled with the fact of my melanin. Is it too dark? Is it all that? But for the first time in my life, I am free enough to enjoy all that it is to be a Black woman in these spaces that I usually didn't feel valued enough or qualified enough to sit in. And I'm super excited now that this is something I'm watching other Black women do, young Black women and older Black women, just finding ourselves. And it's been an adventure, it's been a journey, but it's one that I'm finally really excited to be on.
Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. Okay. I'm gonna kind of pass over to my co-host and Etapa.
Hi. So when it comes to beauty, for me, I think it's the way you act more so than the way you look, and it's like being comfortable in your own skin, and yeah, and being kind and stuff. So yeah. So Olivia, how do you define beauty?
How I define beauty is how people interact with one another and how people interact with nature and society. Like being able to watch people interact with like their environments, how they carry themselves, how they interact with like their family or their partner or their friends, being able to see their mannerisms, being able to hear their dialect, their language, everything to me, every aspect of people as a whole to me is beautiful. No matter who they are, it is just beautiful to me. That's my definition of beauty.
Sparkle, how do you explain beauty when it comes to yourself?
Thank you. How I explain beauty, I think beauty, as Olivia has stated, is more than just the physical. I believe beauty comes from having empathy, having love for one another, kindness, consideration. I think that as I grew older, I have a better understanding of what true beauty is, and you realize it's not just skin deep. It has to come from inside. It has to come from having a sense of caring, kindness, looking out for one another, loving each other, right? So that's where the true sense of beauty comes from. Because again, as a woman in her 40s now, you realize that traditional beauty is something that is fleeting. The real beauty is what you have on the inside, the way you treat others, your kindness, right? The way you think of other persons, the way you put persons first, you consider persons' feelings and things like that. That sense of caring and kindness, I think that is where true beauty lies. And I mean, as a child growing up, I had two situations as a Black woman, as a Black child back then. One, because of my complexion, growing up in the Caribbean, growing up in Trinidad, I had persons on one end saying to me that, stay out of the sun, don't let your skin get dark, as though to say darker complexion is something bad, as though you're saying that dark skin is bad. And as a child, I didn't understand that concept because I had love for all complexions. That's how I was taught. That's how my mother taught me, right? My brothers have darker complexion than I have. I loved them, still love them unconditionally. And I never was able to fully understand that mindset of older persons in my community saying to me, don't stand in the sun, because if you get dark, you will no longer be attractive. You'll no longer be pretty because you got too dark skin, right? And so that concept was something that throughout my childhood has been always something that I kept in my mind. So now as a guidance officer, working in the school system, working with Black and brown children, I make it a serious journey of mine, something that I do, something that I try to fulfill to ensure that children know that they are beautiful regardless. It doesn't matter the complexion, it doesn't matter dark skin, light skin, you are beautiful regardless. You are perfect, you were made perfectly just the way that you are, right? So that's my concept of beauty. I think that it has to do more with how you treat people, your empathy, internally, how you treat others. That is what true beauty is to me at this time.
Thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for that, Niala. We really appreciate that. So as I mentioned, we have Jahan Roberts joining us. Jahan is an entrepreneur. She is a mom. She's a fashionista. Honestly, y'all could just take a look over to her Instagram, follow her Shoes by Fist if you're like, she also in the middle of launching her bar. Entrepreneurial spirit is like, honestly, since I've known Jahan, she has had two things: an impeccable sense of style and the most amazing hair ever. Like, so it's very great to hear, to see her. And then the other thing is that if it's one thing everyone knows about Jahan, she loves her son. She has put a lot of effort into growing her child in a space, and like I think Sparkle just touched on it, in spaces that aren't often very kind to Black people, because it's more, and then we touched on it in our previous session, the first one, the White is Right standard, where Tanya Turton touched on the pretty privilege, and it's not so much you not being systemically at a disadvantage, is more the fact of your proximity to the standard of whiteness and how you benefit from that. So Sparkle is discussing about how her being light-skinned, we have a lot of colorism deeply interwoven into our society back home. In many post-colonial societies, we see it all the time. I mean, I often ask one of the questions that we'll be asking is, do white people see color? Like, do they see colorism? But I mean, the question is yes, because we see it so often. So, right, this brings us to our next question. I want to ask the same question to Miss Anna Sedano. How do you conceptualize beauty?
Hi, good evening, everybody. That is a very good question. How do I conceptualize beauty? And to be very honest, that concept of beauty is still an ongoing exploration for me. You cannot just conceptualize it in one way, because there are so many life experiences that happen that the concept of beauty changes and changes you over time. So, for example, as Sparkle correctly said, due to our colonial background and aspects of colorism growing up, we were always told about all who had the right hair, the right skin, right? And I'll add to that the right weight and, the right family. Everything had to be right, the right religion, everything like that. But as we grow older and we have different experiences, especially traveling abroad, suddenly certain right things become wrong. So, for example, I'm still not, even though I may be considered red, I'm still not white enough. My hair is still weird, right? My size isn't the correct size. And having experienced out of my country being called the N-word, and seeing that experience, and at the same time understanding, well, if people outside and people out there aren't going to accept me, and there's a problem with accepting the standard in my own country, the only choice you have is to accept yourself. And when I became a teacher, educate others into accepting themselves as well. So I remember as a teacher, and one of the girls that I taught who was a darker hue, and she said, I'm not pretty, I'm not nice. And I had to sit down and I had that talk with her, and I had that talk with everyone, that get out of that mindset about you being not nice and not pretty because of your darker hue. That is just the colonial standard talking. That is just parents who were raised in that standard talking as well. You have to accept yourself. You have to accept what it is you think your beauty is, right? Whether you're tall and skinny or you're short and a little round or anything like that, that is you, right? And I think as an educator, we have to ensure to bring students because I have no children. I have no children, but the point is my students are my children. And it is my duty and responsibility to bring them to that understanding of themselves through the education. And education is not just the books that are read, but what they see, how we connect what they see to their personal life experiences. It's also, for example, with the aspect of hair. I had started relaxing my hair at age 15. And after seeing what was happening with my mom and my aunts, and as you get older with hair loss and everything, I decided I wasn't going to let that happen to me. And my sister, who started her natural hair journey, she inspired me, and I started my natural hair journey as well, right? Because I look at the natural hair journey not just as a style thing, but actually as a health issue, right? As we grow older and less estrogen is produced in the body, and women are more susceptible to hair loss at an older age, it is very important as part of your self-care routine. Hence, the hair, taking care of your hair, taking care of your skin, it's not just a beauty thing, but it's a holistic thing, a health thing. To take care of oneself and to grow in an acceptance and loving and understanding of oneself, right? That is extremely important, especially if we have to understand that there's so much for us to give as people and so much for us to learn from each other. So that is the reason why, to me, the concept of my beauty, my personal beauty, as well as the concept of beauty is still changing. Who would have thought that in the year 2020, between 2020 to 2022, in the United States Congress would have finally looked to pass a Coil, what is it, the Crown Act? We in Trinidad and Tobago didn't need a Crown Act to accept natural hair. However, there were schools that frowned upon braids. There were schools that frowned upon braids, and even that has to become accepted and tolerated, right? The Rastafarian hair, it's still insisted that it's be tidy. How do you define tidy? How do you define natural? All of these things are still changing. And because we are evolving and still changing, everything will change accordingly, especially as people's eyes are open and as there's more acceptance. So I am having my own journey. And like I said, my journey is tied really to health and healthcare. And I would like to encourage everyone, even if they're now exploring their natural hair, remember, it's not a fad. It's part of your healthcare. It's part of your journey to cement your healthcare. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And thank you so much, Anna, for giving us that intersectionality of like the fact that people have so much, like there's so much fat phobia, there's so much issues with people and trying to put people in these boxes. And at the end of the day, if it's rooted in anti-Blackness, it means that we will never attain this level of proximity because we will never be the ideal of that standard. If the standard is rooted in anti-Blackness, then we cannot fit that standard.
Exactly. So there will always be anti-Blackness, thanks to history and thanks to all the things that took place in history, right? Especially what the recent past, there will always be anti-Blackness. People are not going to explore the distant past with Egypt and whatnot. And even so, Egyptology is still looked down upon because of the Pharaoh and whatnot, right? But if you look at it as a continuous journey, a journey of exploration, a journey of education and re-education, and evolving the mindset, especially the mindset of the Black woman. And like I said, it shouldn't be tied into, oh, I'm not going to do my hair natural. No. As we women grow older and as the body produces less estrogen and more health issues crop up, best to start taking care. Start taking care. Your skin, your hair, your teeth, your eyes, your nose, your heart, everything. So it's all tied in. It's all tied in. Part of your healthcare routine.
Thank you. So you touch on the Rastafarian culture, and thankfully we have Jahan Roberts in, and I would love to hear her thoughts on that, because if y'all can notice, Jahan has some has some locks. So I'm gonna add the pin so that we all can see, and I'll be doing that from now on so we can see who's speaking for sure. Hi, Jahan.
Hi guys, I'm moving away from the noise. Yes, hi, I'm Jahan. Tell me what you were going to ask me. What is my question? Sorry.
Your question is, what does beauty mean to you, especially as it pertains to your journey in your hair? What started you into having hair, especially when, and like Anna mentioned it, the fact that like dreadlocks, especially dreadlocks, not manicured to be a certain level of like what, like, especially in that post-colonial society. How has been your experience, and how do you visualize beauty as it pertains to that?
Personally, I started my hair. I've always had natural hair, I should say. Always. My parents were very Afrocentric, and they weren't into chemicals in your hair or relaxing and stuff like that. So I've always had natural hair, but I started my locks when I was 15, specifically because my aunt, they hot comb, my aunt would hot comb my hair out for me. And my aunt burnt off the entire left side of my hair. Not on purpose, but so then I decided I wanted to grow a rasta. I started it when I was 15, and I read about Rastafarianism, and because my family is also always very Afrocentric and always very black. Now it's not purpose, very black conscious. Being a dark skinned black woman, especially with locks, especially the fact that I'm not into the twisting. I don't twist my hair, I just leave it. I figure my hair should just grow how it feels.
Oh, I guess we just lost her.
Because you're like a certain way, you can't afford certain things, or you haven't done certain things, or haven't had certain experiences. And I always have to check people. Like, I gather them really, really quickly. Like I would get comments, or like, okay, I always use this as an example. I'm into fashion, and I'm into bags and shoes and stuff, and people will literally just randomly, strangers will say, is that real? Because I wouldn't expect someone like you, and I'm like, someone like, I don't understand what. So it's always comments like that. And what I was touching on what Sparkle said, I completely understood, because I hear the comments, and like my son is red skin, like he's light skin. So then we would get comments about that's his son, or and his hair, he's had locks his entire life also. So in school and stuff, it used to be an issue. It isn't now, because now it's like the in thing or whatever. And
yeah, you just lagged out for like 5 or 10 seconds. Yeah, I must admit I saw that coming, but I think what Jahan was touching on is the deep, what we're seeing is like replication of systems of harm, not just from outside of our community, but from within our community, because of the type of systems that have just been in place. Like, a lot of the times people don't even understand how anti-Black them saying, come on to the sun, we don't want to get dark. What does that mean? Or even we have a saying that we say in Trinidad a lot, nice eyes or nice hair. And if nice is the word used, then what is the opposite of that? What is the connotation of that? So, and that's really important. Niala, do you have any thoughts on what our guests have told us?
I've really enjoyed this so far. And I think this is a great opportunity. And I love being able to sit down and talk to people that I relate to. And I'm getting older, so I feel like I need these conversations more. And yeah.
I believe so too, honey. I honestly believe so. Does anybody else have anything to add to that question? Or can we go on to the next question? Okay, so we're going to the next question. And is, how do you navigate conversations of beauty with your child? Do you that in consideration anti-Blackness? Because we're hearing about it, the fact that it doesn't even matter if we want to or not, the fact that, and it's the point I mentioned a lot of the times, I mentioned the fact that racialized children, especially Black children, we are not allowed to enjoy our child, our innocence, because we get these comments from such a young age. And like, as much as your parents, as Jahan was expressing, how Black conscious her parents was, that her hair is that long because she's never added anything to it. I have like cut off, perm my hair several times. And it's really due to the fact that it doesn't even matter how much you wanna like ground your child in that. It at the end of the day, if the anti-Blackness is so prevalent in our society, what else can we really do? I'm seeing that somebody has their hand raised, Laura Bell. And we will like to ask Arabelle for this first question.
Okay, I could go second because Anna had her hand up before me. So Anna, are you okay if I go first? Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
So when it comes to promoting beauty within our racial, and this was a struggle for me, to be honest, because when my son was born, my initial thought was, oh my God, his hair will be more manageable for me. And when that is a thought as a mom, you have to then begin to assess your own biases and your own internalized anti-Blackness, even as a Black woman. Because I was thinking, oh, he'll have nice hair and I'll be able to do more things with his hair and I'll be able to play with his hair. And then I thought to myself, what does that say about me for myself, that I'm thinking my hair wasn't good enough? And then if my son wasn't biracial, then his hair would not be good enough. And I have Black brothers and I love their hair. So I have one of my brothers has lock snap, and he started his lock journey maybe 7 years ago. And when he first started, my first thought was, I love this for you, but what's the rest of the world going to think about you doing this? How is the rest of the world going to view you as a man when you're a Black man in a world that isn't made for you? Now that you're a Black man with locks, how is the world going to view you? Are you going to be respected? Are you going to be treasured the way we want you to be treasured, the way we want you to be valued? So when it comes to promoting beauty for my son, I have made a very conscious effort for my son to see Black people in his life. So we live in Newfoundland, so he's surrounded by his Caucasian part of his family more than he is his Black family, and there's no issue with that. But in my home, there are pictures of Black people because my son needs to know that Black people are beautiful, Black beauty is a thing, and it's something that he needs to embrace and celebrate within himself. And I have, since having a child, I've been more conscious about how I take care of my hair and how I take care of his hair. Because now when he sees Black women and people with his frills, his first thought is, it wasn't even to me, it was his dad mentioned it to me. He saw the pictures, he's like, that's pretty, that's mommy. And that means so much to me, that when he sees Black hair in its true natural state, in art, in every form, he's like, that's beautiful. When I was young, I couldn't say that was my first thought. And it's so important to me now that those are the things he sees and those are the things he celebrates and things he automatically accepts as the normal standard of beauty. That when we're watching, we have books in our house where there are little boys with curly hair, and his first thought is, oh, that's me. And that is something that I so treasure, because those weren't my thoughts growing up. Those weren't things that I experienced. And it's so much of an active effort to make sure that he sees Black beauty in all the different shapes and forms, whether it's Afro or locks or curls or braids, that he sees all these different varieties and internalizes them as, these are versions of myself. These are versions that are beautiful, celebrated, of value. And that's something that I work actively. And I luckily have a wonderful community of other moms who are trying to do this with their sons, whether they be biracial or just Black. And it's so important that he sees that in very different stands. So he sees my brothers who have locks. He sees my brother who has a low cut. He sees my dad who's half balding, and all these different things. And I think it's even more important for Black men and biracial men to see these things for themselves, because Black women, we luckily have each other. And that's something we can really easily grab on when we need that community to celebrate our beauty from our youth to as we get older. But I feel like for Black men, there's a harder time in them seeing Black forms of beauty in men and in women. So when Black men can see Black beauty in women and see it celebrated, when they can see Black beauty in themselves and see it celebrated, I think it's a fantastic thing. And it's a thing that as moms and adults is something we need to continue to do more to foster those experiences for them. So when it comes to kids, I think it's something I work really hard to do, because I know how lacking it was for me, and not through any fault of my parents, just because we've grown up in a world where it wasn't celebrated. But as I see my brothers go through this journey, it's something I want my son not to struggle, but to inherently know that this is right, this is perfect, this is worth celebrating. Raven, you're muted.
Your mic is off. Yes.
Yeah, because Niala is going to be asking the next question to our next guest. Same question to our next guest.
Anna, how do you have those conversations?
I think that the most important way to have the conversation is directly, because as a teacher, it's not good to hide anything. And as I keep telling my students, literature is life. You're going to see it come up. You're going to see it approach. So it's best that we talk about it, and we talk about it because the classroom is supposed to be a safe space for open ideas and open exchange of ideas. So, for example, there's a lot of literature where you see colorism, the drawings, you see colorism, the cartoons, the comics, you see colorism, right? And then there was a shift where we started seeing positive image of Blackness on the television, the Proud Family, the Boondocks, and the political and should I say socio-political statements that refer to acceptance, right? Acceptance of beauty in all of its forms. So when I had students who asked me, do you think that I'm pretty because I'm dark? The answer is yes, right? You have to re-educate and reinforce the idea of positivity, body positivity, personality positivity, and overall positivity, right? So that in case there is any student who, for example, they need to confide in someone, they need to have that open discussion, it can be done in a safe space. It can be done in an educational space where they can look at what led you to that question, whether it was what you were exposed to at home, what society has exposed young girls and young men to, that red girls are prettier and red girls are this and Black women that and everything like that, and what is preferred and what's not preferred, right? Whether it be it's the overall image of women as gold diggers and all these negative images. How do we take all of that and have a safe discussion of it? That is the procedure, to have a safe discussion. So, for example, I've been asked a question: are women really gold diggers? Or, for example, in the teaching of the Tempest, many of us here in the Caribbean, when we teach the Tempest, we look at it from the point of view of conquest, the conquest of this island, which Caliban was originally on. And like it or not, that is a correct way to interpret it, because literally speaking, it was a conquest of an island that Caliban was on. And how do you view these ideas of beauty, Blackness, and everything like that? But do it in a way that's positive, that's educational, and that everyone can get something from it without feeling, oh, you're pushing this Black thing on me. It's not pushing a Black thing. It's understanding that just as how there's this perspective that was done by this author, that was done by this ideology because of this societal background, there's also this perspective and there's also reaction to it. So no, we're not shoving Blackness down your throat or anything like that, right? Some people may love Alice Walker and her messaging. Some people may not like Alice Walker and her messaging. How are we going to look at it? Are you going to look at it as anti-Black, or are you going to look at it from an academic point of view? So the thing is, my dear, it's just to understand that there are always going to be perspectives, but it's to educate yourself on what those perspectives are and how any of those perspectives doesn't really apply to you personally, because you have to know yourself. You have to know who you are, because you'll be going out into a world that will not accept you. But in knowing who you are and knowing how you accept yourself, you can indeed forge forward because you have a sense of identity and a sense of self. And I think that is something that Caribbean literature and much literature for African American women especially, is about evolving that sense of identity. That sense of identity as a woman, first of all, a Black woman, and a mother, a daughter, a friend, any of these boxes of what you call identity and how you shape and fit them into that one mold. So I think that's how I would do it. I would definitely ask them to define how you define yourself. You have to really and truly look at it from all perspectives until you come to an idea of who you are. Thank you.
Thank you. I understand where you're coming from. I honestly feel like but my perspective, I believe, feel like when we talk about anti-Blackness, for me, in preparation for this event, I did some Googling of the first book I ever read for myself. And that was J.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. And I remember the inundation of Blackness that made me feel so uncomfortable, the way how he described orcs. And then this morning, as I was preparing for this again, I did a Google search and I heard that he had actually had some private emails on Wikipedia, by the way, and Google, and how he was describing the orcs. He was describing it in a very anti-Black way, the shape of the nose, the color of the skin. And the thing is, this is what makes me question, like, so much of what we see is considered to be art because of anti-Blackness, because of colonialism, and that inundation in the Caribbean stuff in our curriculum is so deep. And that is what I think Laura Bell as well was adding the fact, and you touched it as well, that this actually frames it in terms of Black, and in terms of Black interaction. Because at the end of the day, what we're seeing is a lot of misogyny against Black women, especially. Because at the end of the day, the world, when you see it, the world still seems to accept Black men once they have this able-bodied, they fit these Sidney Poitier look. There's always Black men in the stuff. Now, Black women, they're usually biracial. They're usually light skinned. And we see, and you know what? I'm so excited because we have Kyla Iman, who is the owner of Melanin Animated on Instagram, who's going to be giving us a whole little keynote about anti-Blackness in animation and in like different parts of our society that we've been in. So thank you so much for that, Anna. I don't know if you all know, but Anna's actually my literature teacher, and she taught me everything I know about analysis. So yeah. Niala, do you have any thoughts on that so far? How are you feeling?
I thought it was really interesting to hear all these things, and I'm lucky to have a teacher who I have a good relationship with, since I know some students don't get that. And she's actually here tonight. And yeah.
Point her out.
Her name is Miss Bowman.
Okay, hi, Miss Wilma. We're very happy to have you here. So, okay, thank you so much for that, Niala. Would you like to ask the same question to anyone you'd like to pick? You're unmuted, I think.
Is there anybody else that would like to add to that?
I think so.
Yes. Oh, yes. I'm just saying, I guess not much more, but just to speak to the fact that I am the mother of a Black daughter, right? With natural curly, coily hair as well, a little darker skin than I have. And when she was born, from the time she was born, I felt as though, as a mother, as a Black mother, I needed to prepare her for the world. It's like I knew what I experienced, I know what I see in society, and that same idea of those colonial as ideas of what beauty standards are and what beautiful is supposed to be. I know that when she went out into the world, there would be people who would see her and not see her as beautiful, like the way I saw her as beautiful. So from the time she was born, those conversations started. And when I say from the time she was born, baby, I would speak to her words of positive. You have beautiful hair. Look at your skin, so pretty, beautiful skin. You're so gorgeous. To the point where when she was 2 years old, her hair was really short, and she used to play with her hair, and she would loose out the hair. And my sister-in-law would tell her, no, you need to not loose out your hair. Your hair won't look pretty if you loose out your hair. And 2 years old, she told her, no, my hair is beautiful, right? And my sister-in-law told me, look at the confidence that Sophia has. Yes, because it was spoken to her from birth, because I knew she would have had to go out into that world and battle that world. Unfortunately, as a Black woman, it would be something that she had to deal with throughout her life, and I needed to prepare my child for that. I did not want her to be in a situation where people could easily break her spirit. She needed to know that she was beautiful. She was beautiful just the way she is. And to this day, she's now 19 years old. She's never relaxed her hair. She's never put chemical in her hair. And she's very proud of her beautiful natural hair. Oh, your mic is off, Khadija.
Thank you so much for that, Sparkle. I really appreciate, and I really feel like we're really discussing a lot of like natural hair, and what we realize as Black women is that there's so much politics behind the state of natural when it comes to Black women. Like, what is natural for us? Like, for me, and because of the anti-Blackness, like, we have, and I think Raven Wings, our keynote speaker for last week, touched on this so much. Raven is the co-founder of BLM Canada, formerly a member of BLM Toronto, and Raven is a trans model. Raven does amazing amount of work. She's a Sephora model as well for a makeup line. And one of the things that she talks about is the way how Black women over the years have found a way to enjoy and to the ways of resistance we've managed to have, the way of protective styling, braids or wigs and so forth. And I remember myself wearing wigs so much. People have so much assumptions around me wearing wigs. They assume if I hate my natural hair, if I don't like it. But then the other part that is something that I touch on so much is that when you live in a place where you are the minority, it means that you are not just the minority in terms of the number of people, but it also translates to visibility and significance. And what we see so much of the time in Newfoundland, and we're only just seeing some changes, is some natural hair products that are not Shea Moisture or Cantu. And they do not cost an arm and a leg, and they are widely available in drugstores. And this is something that we touched on yesterday on CBC's Adam crossover with Adam Walsh. We talked about the fact that this is something that is just now changing, and that one thing affected so many decisions of Black women in the province and biracial women in the province, where they're trying to figure out, if I want to afford this, I need to ship this in, pay this, and do all these things. That's a lot of effort. And Niala, how do you feel about like really getting hair products? How's your mom for getting hair products and taking care of your hair in St. John's growing up? And after that, Olivia.
Sometimes I have a hard time getting different products and brushes. And I remember one time I was brushing my hair and the brush actually snapped off, like the top. And my mom's done a pretty good job of finding hair products. And sometimes I get my hair braided. I'm not sure if I had them at the camp this summer, but yeah.
Yeah, you actually had your hair in too. They weren't braided.
Yeah, and I get and a lady braids my hair, and I think I've done a very good job of taking care of it. I sometimes I wear a bonnet to bed, and well, I always wear a bonnet to bed. And I take care of it pretty good, I'd say. Yeah.
Yes, I would say as well. I see, the importance of protecting your hair. Like, we can't be like those like fairy tale Disney girls where we just go to bed and we literally have to protect our hair. Like, Disney isn't for everybody. And you know what, Niala, wouldn't you love to see a Disney princess who had a protective bonnet going to bed? Okay, Olivia, you indicated you wanted to chat about this. You would love to hear your opinion.
So, growing up as a Barbadian Canadian here and experiencing the things I've experienced with growing up and having the informative of coming from my father, who is a Barbadian man, he goes, hey, when you go to school here, you are going to be told that you look different. You're going to be told that you are not good enough. He gave me the informative on it before anything happened, which I can't thank him enough for, because it, in a sense, prepared me for the hardships that were to come. But I do find it is very discouraging, because being a 17-year-old young woman, a young mixed woman, and trying to find not only like the proper beauty standards, but the proper hair care. I have to go in and order it, or I have to go downtown to Toya, which is an international market. That's where I find my castor oil. In Shoppers Drug Mart, I recently found they have Dark and Lovely, which is a product that I use whenever I'm home. And I don't know, like a lot of the things that Laura Bell and Anna talked about, a lot of it resonated with me, because a lot of it I experienced after having to grow up here in a small upper town, Torbay. A lot of it just really resonated with me. It really hit me in the feelings.
Yeah, and thank you so much for that. And the thing is that we are as we enter this journey with each other, we are gonna feel things that make us say, wait a minute, this is not just me. This is something that has happened before. Like, it really affects us, how systemic racism is and how it really affects all of us on these deep levels, but also these overarching levels, no matter where we are around the world. And I think that's really important, and that's why this piece is important. Thank you for that. Does anybody else have anything to add on that particular question?
Actually, yes. I was wondering, seeing that we're having these discussions, the next step should be actuality. So are there going to be, like, for example, if there are beauty schools, shouldn't there be a syllabus to teach Black hair? If there's one for makeup and tonality, want to understand different skin tones and skin colors, photography for different tones. I saw an ad on the television where Google Pixel is advertising, our cameras are able to collect different tones. Okay, good. Okay, so what about a school of photography to make sure that that's done for the future generation? Same thing. We have someone who's into anime. Right now with Anime Caribe, they're still struggling to have something that's Caribbean based, representative of Caribbean culture and Caribbean ideologies. So what's the next step? when is Canada or Newfoundland going to have an anime series that's based on our experiences? Right? A way to that, in that way, the next generation coming up will feel even more comfortable, right? Seeing themselves represented. Because we saw all the fuss around Encanto. People are saying they're finally seeing themselves, and okay, bravo, that's good, bravo, very good, right? In the Caribbean, we see ourselves too many times, but we see a version that is perfect, a version that we like, a version that is acceptable. All right, that's what we see, right? We don't want to see the other side, but we see a version that's acceptable. To talk about the other things is to go into a murkier territory that isn't necessarily acceptable. But we have to, in order for there to be forward movement, you have to look at all 360 degrees and see how best you can plan to move ahead, so the next generation can feel better. There can be less misogynoir. There can be less issues with color, with hair, race. And we can have an educated, right? An educated forward movement where you'll have service providers, where you'll have books, literature, art, that won't just be, oh, that's their art, their books, but it's representative of this country, right? It's just a thought. Thank you.
No, it's actually a very good thought, actually, and it's so amazing because, like, I think that is something that with regard to animation, it's something that Kyla will actually be talking about as well, and it's important. But I'm gonna just go quick straight to Laura Bell because she has her voice up, and I want to also make sure we stay hopefully on time because we have never managed to do so. Yeah. Laura Bell, yeah, you can.
So I'm just going to quickly touch on Anna's point about when is Newfoundland or Canada going to get on the black hair care certifications. So this was something that I had actually asked a bunch of hairdressers because when I first moved here, I wanted to get my hair straightened, just a simple blowout. I came $2 later and my hair looked, I had washed it and blow dried it in my own house, which had me sitting there and seething. So I have a bunch of friends who are professionally trained hairdressers in Newfoundland Labrador, and I've asked them, have you ever been taught to do black hair? And they say no, because they're told it's not enough of a market that they need to learn how to do it. That is the look I had, Sparkle. That is the face, that is the feeling, that is everything. And as the population in Newfoundland and Labrador continues to grow, and they are more Black people, more biracial people, more people of different ethnicities, it's something that I've wondered. And the one thing about Black people, we are inventive, we are industrious, we are strong. And if it isn't there for us already, we are going to make it for us. So we have a bunch of young entrepreneurial Black women who have started their own hair care businesses, who are braiding out of their houses, who are doing what needs to be done to take care of their sisters and their brothers in a community that isn't caring for them. So it's gotten to a point where we are looking to petition schools, hair schools, because there is no standard curriculum. It's all individual hair schools and all individual estheticianary schools. It's something that each school then needs to decide if they feel it is worth their time, and if it's worth their time or their dollars to take on, because the mannequins for 4C, 3B, 3A hair aren't as readily available as straight Caucasian hair mannequins are. The clients who will be able to come in and do the test runs with their students, are they as available as their white counterparts? The teachers aren't ever been trained in there, so they would need specialists to come in and train. And as of right now, these schools aren't willing to put in the dollars to support an industry they don't feel is profitable enough to them, which is unfortunate, because if you know anything about Black women and Black people, we want to look good, we want to look on point, and we're willing to put the time and the money to make sure we feel as confident as possible. but they so don't value us and our time and our money that they aren't willing to instill it into their curriculum currently. So it's something that it has been talked about in the Black community and with those who do have friends and family who happen to be Caucasian as to what is being done, but the industry doesn't take us seriously enough as people and doesn't value us enough to yet put in the time and effort to cater to our needs.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Laura. But actually, that is something that we actually have been discussing in Black Lives Matter with regard not only to that, but regard to the fact that there's the gender disparity. Like I know Ali Pike of the Seahorse Salon is a big advocate of that. Hair has no gender. Hair is hair. So why is it that certain people have to pay different types of hair? And then when that person, as we go as a society from having these very strict gender diverse lens, then how does that now impact hair? Like, because, you know, so is these kind of things, these rules that are questioning and on. This is what I love about Coils, and Conversation, that this is about beauty and this is about hair, but look at all of the ways and lenses to which we can see our invisibility as Black women and femmes in a very predominantly white space, something as small as not making sure that we are cared for when we enter a space where we see 10 different types of Ghanaian, but just 2 different types of Black hair. And then we also have to take consideration that we aren't seen as valuable to these organizations, these people who are doing this, because of the fact that it's like, oh, it's too much money, oh, it's too much that. It's always going to cost something. But again, this brings me back to my point about the minority. Is it minority in terms of importance or in terms of the amount of us here? Because it gets really, really confusing to me. With that, I will hand over our mic to my co-host. And somebody actually just pointed out to me that we're actually wearing the same pattern. We hadn't even planned that, Niala. We are twinning. Twinning!
So the next question is, do you find it necessary to speak to your child about race and why, or children?
And that's a free question. Whoever would like to chat about that can go ahead. And you can also take it from the aspect of, do you as a youth or child feel like if you need to discuss race with your parents? And I think Niala has a story that she might want to chat about that first, about how she navigates her race, because Niala, tell us something about yourself. Because I really just touched the bare bones. Tell us about your background a little bit.
So I was born on March 10th, 2012, to my mom and my dad. My dad is from Sudan and my mom is from here. So I am a mixed race person. And I have gotten a lot of questions about that. Some haven't been so nice. I really like to play soccer. I got into that maybe a couple of years ago. I love to act. I love participating in things like this. I protest. I am a youth activist for many things. And I remember, and sometimes I personally feel like I am more Black than white. I'd say I probably identify as a Black person myself. And I remember one time I was in the car and I was like, should I say it to mom or not? And then I was like, mom. And then she was like, yeah. And I was like, I feel like I'm more Black than white. I'm sorry. And then she was like, no, that's okay. It's like, that's almost like asking if we could have spaghetti for dinner. Like I am a Black person, like, and there's nothing that I can do to change that. Well, like, I should be proud, and I should be proud of the way I look and my hair and my curls, because my curls are beautiful and so are yours.
Thank you very much. And who will you? Thank you very much for sharing that, Niala. I'm sure we're all very happy to have known all those things about you. Would you like to ask whoever else would like to chat about this? Anybody want to indicate so Niala can let y'all know? This and
So does anybody have anything to add to that?
Laura Bell. Yes, our mommy, and now we have our
mommy down
So that's Theodore. So I do think it's important to talk to my child about race just because he is a biracial child, but he's also a boy. So regardless if I see him as biracial, the world is going to take him as a Black man. That is something I need to prepare him for. It's something, especially going on a predominantly white area, it's something I need to know, make sure he understands and he resonates with. Because regardless of how I feel and what I think, the world still operates on the one drop rule. So whether he counts as white passing or not, the fact that he has any Black in him, he's a Black man in a world that is not made for Black men. So I need to prepare him to keep him safe. I need to prepare him and talk about race to make sure that if he goes out into the world and he doesn't feel valued, he knows there's always a community that is going to accept him, that is going to claim him, that is going to make sure he's loved, cared for, and supported. So race, as much as people try to say race is not important and race is something that they want to talk about, when you're dealing with Black children, biracial children, race is not something you get to skip. It's not something you get to pretend doesn't exist. It's something they need to be prepared for and something they need to be aware of, because the world is going to judge them regardless of what we care and how much we love our babies. We won't always be there to protect them, and we need to make sure they're prepared for a world that doesn't love them like we do.
Thank you so much for that. Okay, does anybody else have anything to add to that question? Olivia? Go right ahead.
I do have something to add on to that. Like how Nyala said, how when she spoke to her mother about identifying more as Black, as a young mixed woman, I've always referred to myself as Black. I never saw any different until it was my older folks who would, oh, but you do realize that you are also white, correct? It's like, yes, I do realize, because I'm not as pigmented as my father or my grandmother or my uncles, aunties, this one or that one, but I still am Black. I still have the cheekbones. I still have the nose, the eyes, the body structure, the bone density, everything. I have the hair. So why try to diminish my Blackness because you're upset? Because that's really and truly what it was. But it is very interesting. When I first spoke to my mom about it, I was like, Mama, is it okay if I refer to myself as Black? She goes, is that not what you are? And I said, well, I mean, yes. So she's like, I want to know if you would be offended. And she goes, no, that would not offend me. I said, really? It wouldn't? She goes, no, you're not diminishing me. You're not doing anything by saying that. That is you. You are you. You are your own individual. And if you are closer or more connected to your Black roots, then so be it. You be you. You express what you feel more comfortable with. I said, well, yes. I mean, my hair is 4A, 3C, 4B. My hair is a mix of everything because I'm mixed. My mother has wavy hair. My father had an afro when he had hair. He's bald now. But it is very interesting. It is very, very interesting. Like my father, he is one of the first Black men to work in the Her Majesty's Penitentiary. The first Black man, first Black person in general. So for a lot of the Black History Month things that we've implemented when it came to implementing that curriculum in the school, a lot of the people that I know wrote about my father. And they're like, hey, this is the first Black man to work at the penitentiary. I was like, wow, you guys are writing about my papa. That's interesting. And when it came to other things, they wrote about either me or some of the other people who were like big up there, like Martin Luther King. They're like, hey, this girl implemented this into the school. That's big. That's important. I was like, wow, thank you for the recognition. And when some of the other teachers, they spoke to me about, hey, have you heard of this place? They have this for this type of hair. Or, hey, they have the the loop hooks for you to put in the locks, because I've had Senegalese locks done before. I've had box braids, I've had, you name it, I've probably had it. But I've done those protective hairstyles, and my teachers, after seeing me have them, they've done their research and they've come to me going, hey, do you know that this place has this here? I've been like, no, actually I don't, but thank you very much for telling me. So it's very big to be able to discuss these things. It's just so beautiful to share these experiences with not only Nyala as a mixed child, but as everybody else here as Black women, to be able to share these things is just beautiful to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Oh, thank you, Olivia. No, I definitely think that for me personally, I have no children of my own. And much like Anna, I am very much a teacher. I believe that all of the people I teach and I interact with, they are all my children. I try to give so much of myself to them because it's so important. And I think that personally, people should be able to choose which identity they want to, because some people look particularly, they look very much white, but they identify as Black, and it's never my place to say this is who you are. And I feel like if so often society or Blackness is problematized in such a way where we aren't able to really question whiteness. We can't say, no, we're this, we're that. But at the end of the day, we all come to this on this journey with some outside aspects. But the beautiful thing about it is that this is an intergenerational panel. We have people of all different ages, and we're all coming to this realization on our own. And I think that in itself is beautiful. So thank you all so much for even being here. Is anyone else anything to add to that? Question? No, that's it. Okay. All right. So that brings us to our final question. Actually, no, it will be our second to last question, because I wanted at least try to keep us somewhat on schedule. And after this, we will be having our keynote by Kyla Iman, and we'll also be going into our perspectives from Irene or Mezabine. Oh my God, you didn't even let me know which one you wanted, because you're under two names here. And she will give us a perspective on deconstructing Western standards of beauty, or perceptions of beauty in South Asia. So without further ado, the second to last question: mainstream stereotypes and microaggressions. How do you, as a parent or youth, navigate the images and bias of anti-Blackness presented as Blackness in a predominantly non-racialized province? So that's a question that's a little bit more nuanced, and I'll explain why. It's actually two questions in one, because asking how do you navigate all of these anti-Black images that we see, like, and it's anti-Black because if you ever watch Love and Hip Hop, you know it's anti-Black, because then people start ascribing every time you put a little bit of bass in your voice when you're in these professional settings. They're like, oh, are you gonna throw a glass? No, but I was just expressing, and then we talk about this kind of one-dimensional way of how Black people are seen, this good and bad dogma, which no other race has to deal with in such a way. It happens other races, now mind you, that exceptionalism that we talk about. And it's something I really enjoy, and it's a term that I want to really propagate in the Newfoundland and Labrador lexicon of anti-racism discussion. It's called Black Flourishing, and it's actually done by the Scarborough Charter. And actually, I will send this over to you, Anna. Hopefully you can show them at our old school about the importance of Black flourishing in academia. So it'll be quite an interesting read. So without further ado, I'll actually pass it across to Nyala. How do you navigate all the anti-Black or the negative images sometimes? Or do you see any negative images about Black people in like social media, on TikTok? Do you like experience that? And from Nyala, we'll jump into Laura Bell. She had a hand up.
So, it sometimes it hurts, because I know it will most likely always be the perfect Caucasian girls. It'll always be it'll always be the girls with the perfect bodies. Like, and I feel like we need to see more diversity on TV, but we also need to see more body diversity on TV. Because yeah, because it's hard, and I feel like we should be able to, and I feel like people, like Black people, should be more included, I guess I'd say. And I think that really needs to be a change that we need to make.
Yeah, I completely get where you're coming from. And I agree, Niala, you're completely right. Like, so many of the times when we do see Black people, they're really, really model type. They have this either they're perfectly dark skin, they're perfectly light skin. There's this type of fetishization. And then when it is there's more Caucasian or non-racialized people, they get to have more diversity in how they're represented a lot of the times. And a lot of the times when it is, and I see it in the body diversity because I myself, I was never small. And I see it that a lot of the times whenever there's a chubby, she's often over-sexualized, she's loud, she's aggressive, she's always the funny one. She has to add something. She's never the thought-provoking one. She's never the one who gets to have all this beauty and stuff. And Jahan touched on it before she got disconnected, where Jahan has always had a lot of luxury, a luxury type person. And when she was having these luxury type stuff, what happened? When people ask her, is this yours? Is this real? Because they couldn't believe it. There was such a disassociation in the fact that there was this Black woman with this long locks, but having Gucci and Prada and wearing Louis Vuitton. They really didn't believe it. And that's really something important. So thank you so much for that, Niala. Going across to Niala, do you want to ask Laura to go ahead and chat because she had her hand up?
Maribel, you can go ahead and start.
Thanks, Niala. So when it comes to challenging the views and perceptions of anti-Blackness, especially in terms of beauty, I think it's important we talk about the fetishization of Black women and how that's something we have to deal with a lot when it comes to our standards of beauty. So Black women are usually seen as this other in terms of our beauty. We're not usually the go-to, we're not usually the ideal version, except it comes to sexuality. We are what they want in the bedroom and in the dark corners, but we're never the ones at the dinner table. We're never the ones you're bringing to meet your mom or any of that. So I always find that when we're watching shows and anything, if you're going to have a Black woman at your family dinner, she's the light one. She's the one with the soft curls. She's the one who is either biracial or light-skinned. And then when you have Black women who happen to look like me or a little darker than me, here, any of that, it's the one they're texting their boy who they've dated or they slept with, but they're never going to marry. They're never going to say she's beautiful, she's always hot, or I'd hit that. And I think it's a very jarring thing for me, especially because I've worked in like the bar industry and I've been hit up by men where there are comments that I would never, the audacity of someone saying those things to me, I've been taken back. And I was like, I've seen you hit on my white counterparts. Those words would never leave your mouth to talk to those women, but you feel it's okay to just my body and my sexuality, and that's good enough, and I should be fawning and feel oh so grateful to have your eyes on me. And I think that's a very hard thing to accept, because when I think of myself, I think I'm beautiful, I think I'm smart, I think I'm eloquent, and I have all these other aspects that I consider incredibly beautiful. But then the only way my beauty is valued is either in my sexuality or if I'm toned down enough to be seen as white, or things that are attributed to white women. So if I'm speaking eloquently, so you speak so nicely for a Black woman. And I was like, no, I speak nicely, flat out. I am educated, I am smart. I do not speak nicely for a Black woman. And because my name is Laura Bell, and you see my background, oh, and I'm always taken back as to what's, oh, why is this who you were you not expecting to see this beauty, this eloquence, this esteem to be sitting at your table because I happen to be Black? So it's always very hard for me to take it that the society would not always see the grace and the pleasure that comes with being me, whether I'm full bodied, whether I'm dark skinned, whether I'm rocking an afro, braids, or if I'm in a wig or straight hair. But then if my lighter or whiter counterparts do this, they are praised and put on this throne and valued higher than I ever am. And so when it comes to combating it, I own my Blackness, I own my femininity, I own it whether I'm loud and screaming and telling you do not get to talk to me as just my physicality, or whether I am being more demure and graceful because that's what I feel like in that moment. I think we as Black women, we embrace our dualities. Sometimes we're loud and we're boisterous because those are the spaces where we need to advocate for ourselves. We need to carry that baritone in our voice because it's there and there's no reason to deny it. And when we're soft and demure, because we're feminine and those things are inherently in who we are as well. We do not have to hold our femininity to European standards. Those are things that are ingrained into us. We were queens before they valued us as queens. We'll be queens regardless of what they value us. And I think it's very important that we surround ourselves with images of that for ourselves, because if they're not going to give it to us, we need. And my tablet might die, so I'll be switching to my phone.
Okay, I think you cut off, but thank you so much for that, Laura Bell. I really appreciate that, and Niala as well. So next person, watching the time because I really don't want to go over. Our interpreters are only up for 2 hours. That's why. So yeah. and they're doing such a great job. Thank you so much, Janalee and Shelby. Like, y'all don't get enough thank you for all the work that y'all do. Like, you know. Next, who would like to add to that question next? Again, the question is how mainstream stereotypes and microaggressions, how do you as a parent or youth navigate the images and bias of anti-Blackness presented as Blackness in a predominantly non-racialized area? Sparkle, I see your hand up, and then after we'll go to Olivia.
It's just a quick story, not taking up too much time. An experience I've had personally with that. I remember coming through the airport in Washington, D.C. I had my kids with me. My son had left a toy in his carry-on that needed to be in the checked luggage. I had to go downstairs to the persons who do the checked luggage to get the bag back to put the toy in. And it was a big white guy, and he saw me coming towards him, braids in my hair, coming, very Black woman coming towards him. And his immediate reaction to me was aggression. He was aggressive towards me, as though that's what he anticipated I was going to come towards him with, aggression. And he was just standoffish and like, why are you here? What is the issue? And he started to speak. And then when I started to speak to him and explain myself and explain what the situation, and he realized I came in a very calm tone. I was explaining myself well, and he understood what I was trying to get at. He eventually got it back for me. And when I was leaving, he apologized to me for misunderstanding the approach that I was coming towards him with. And my thing is, why would you initially think that I was coming to you with aggression when I just walked up to you? So you just saw a Black woman, braids in her hair, walking up to you to ask you a question, and you immediately thought aggressive Black woman is coming to speak to me, right? Because that's what they put out there. That's what the media puts out. That's what society puts out. Black women aggressive, and so that's what a lot of other races tend to go towards. They think that once you're Black, you are in a box. You are an aggressive, especially as a Black female. You must be an aggressive person.
Thank you so much for that. I'm so sorry that happened to you, and that those types of instances of unconscious bias. It was really the fact that you as a Black woman was now having to deal with his stereotyping of you, and now you have to take all that emotional load, because at the end of the day, I think that now you have the desire to become irritated, but you have to now hold that in. Because now you can, because if you do respond to it, it's like, self-fulfilling prophecy. And that type of unfairness is really important. Thanks for sharing that with us. Olivia.
So I have an experience that's quite similar, but it has to do with schooling. So
We love those experiences.
I experienced a really nasty experience when I first started going to the high school, when it was a 7 to 12 school. This was one of my first few days of grade 7 in mathematics class, and we were learning about algebra and the algebraic equations and the tiles that we used and how there were positive and negative tiles. Now, the teacher that I had, he asked everybody to raise their hand and stand up if they were not Caucasian. I am the only Black woman in my grade, still to this day. So me being a 11-year-old girl at the time, I stood up and he asked me, so I need to ask you, are you Black? Are you African? Are you African American? Are you Indian? Are you Asian? What type of Black are you? And I said, sir, I am a normal girl. I'm a normal child. And I left. I walked out. My father, my mother, they went to the school. They lost their minds by the fact that this man had the audacity to stand me up in front of this group of 30-odd children and start talking about my Blackness. The very next day, this grown man, he decides to vocalize the algebra and how there is Black and white tiles. He goes to me and goes, I know you are Black, so I need to ask you this. I'm like, what is it? He goes, so a few years back, some of my students told me that calling the Black tiles Black is racist because it's negative. And I said, well, sir, that's not true. If you are giving personification to a object and you're projecting your anti-Blackness onto mathematics, then it's you who has the problem, not them. If they were silly enough to make that joke and you were silly enough to believe it, it's your problem. You are not supposed to look at an 11-year-old girl in front of her peers and classmates, colleagues, and tell her that because of the fact that she is Black, he cannot teach the curriculum properly because he needs to call it shaded in fear of offending me. Yeah, that's one of my nasty experiences.
This makes me very angry as both an educator in the K-12 system of Newfoundland Labrador and as Black Lives Matter. So we should definitely chat more about this, and I'm sure that my co-founders will want to chat about this more too. And I hope Rogers want to chat about it too, because this is what we are having Coils and this conversation for, to really have real people express how they navigate and their real experiences, because this is something I have stated on several times. There is a lack of clear channels, any way to really address or to bring awareness to the fact that there is so much of anti-Blackness. And the fact of this is what Anti-Racism Coalition talks about all the time, that this is underrepresented, underreported, because this is something that really affects so much of singling out, so much of like, I hated mathematics because I couldn't do the work. Imagine having to be a child and having these types of experiences be put on you in addition to math. It's really unfair again. And I'm so sorry that happened to you, Olivia, and it doesn't take away anything from it, but I truly wish it had not happened. And we at Black Lives Matter now, we at the Anti-Racism Coalition, this is what we fight against, to highlight and make aware of these things. So sorry for that. Okay, does anyone else have to add to that question? Okay, so Niala, I think this brings us to our final question, which is, how do you challenge beauty, and how do you think that you will go forth to challenge it even more after you've participated in this workshop, in this event? Niala, you can go first. Actually, no, I'll go first. I think that for me, I will continue having events like this to give voice to everybody who wants to engage on this level. Niala, how are you going to challenge?
I think I will start being more confident in my hair and my style and myself, and just me in general. Sometimes I haven't really been that confident in myself, and I think I'm gonna start trying to be more confident and not being like and in who I am as a person. And yeah.
Thank you so much for that. I think you're doing an amazing job already, but you can do better. But you know what? We love you now, and we love your hair. It looks quite beautiful today, mind you. Okay, Sparkle, do you have anything to add to that question? How you'll be challenging kind of our standards of beauty?
Yes, by ensuring that my Black and brown students are aware of how beautiful they in fact are, and so that they can go out into society with that confidence. You know, we want to encourage, because I mean, we all grew up with those ideas of we are not as pretty as the students in school with the straight hair and the quote unquote the colonial look, right? So we want to ensure that students, I want to ensure as an educator that my students, my Black and brown girls and boys, understand that you are beautiful the way you are perfect just the way you are. So to keep encouraging young people, children and youth, Black children and brown children and youth, that they are beautiful just in the way that they are.
Thank you so much for that, Sparkle. Okay, Olivia.
So a way that I want to express beauty is being unapologetically natural. I want to express my culture. I want to be proud in that, because my uncle is a Nigerian man. He is a Igbo man. He is a very powerful man. And he asked me, he goes, "Hey, do you think that you would like to wear some of the traditional tribal fabrics for prom? Because I'm graduating this year." I go, "Yes, of course I would." So here I am. This is not only that, but when you look at it from the true points, the Caribbean and West Indian women and peoples, all of them, they have been brought over from the Ivory Coast, Nigeria, and certain parts of Congo. So technically, when you look at it, I'm being brought back to my roots. I'm being given the opportunity to express what I had and what we as Caribbean women have had stolen from us. I'm being given an opportunity to get in touch with my Afro roots, and it's beautiful. It's so beautiful, because not only that, I've been working on a outfit for a Carnival, because that's something they celebrate in Barbados along with the rest of the West Indies. And I haven't been home in 4 years, so I'm very excited to be able to do that. Me and my partner, I'm pretty sure we're going to go sometime either this or next year. And I want him to meet my family. He is a Caucasian boy. And I'm very excited for him to meet my family, because it's like, hey, I've been exposed to your view of the world. Why don't you view my view of the world? Why don't you come to where I grew up and see how I view the world? Because I want him to meet my family, my grandmother, all of them. They're so far very invested in meeting this man. They're just so excited about it, because like, he's accepted you and he hasn't judged you for your Blackness. He hasn't picked you apart because of the fact that you are different, or because of the fact that you are structurally built this way, or because of the fact that young Black women are over-sexualized in this day and age. And it's always been that way. Like, I found it so difficult to want to wear like leggings or this or that the way that all these other young Caucasian women do in high school, because I have to worry about whether I will be physically or sexually assaulted in a hallway because I'm trying to dress like everybody else. Like, it's gotten to a point where it's like, you know what, I don't care anymore. I'm going to do what I do. And all these other young women, they wear these Lululemons, they wear these this and that, these accentuating pants to make themselves look like us. Because when you look at it and you look at the definitions of what these women want, and you see all them going out to get these lip injections, the higher cheekbones, it is coming from our standards. It's coming from our definition. We have the more defined cheekbones and the bigger lips and the more broad noses. And that's what they're going out to get. They're getting BBLs, the Colombian butt lifts. They're doing all these things because they want what we have. They want our structure, our Black, beautiful structure. That's what they want. And I have that. So why can't I wear those pants and be myself? Like, it's just so, it's so beautiful to be a Black woman. I'm blessed with that opportunity. I love it.
Thank you so much for that, Bia. That was so sweet. We appreciate it. Okay, Anna. And it is good to be a Black woman. I feel happy every day. Anna, how will you challenge beauty?
As I previously said, the challenge comes with the continuous definition of beauty standards and understanding our place in it. The more we evolve, the more changes that there are. And slowly but surely, there are changes that are growing to accept our sort of beauty and our sort of body size and hair types and everything like that. But the more we change, the more other people will respond to that change. So the changes have to come from many different aspects. So it's not just us, but you have to see those changes in the media. You'll have to see those changes in film, art, graphics. We have a graphic designer here, right? You'll have to see those changes everywhere, because those changes on the outside will also reflect us as we continue to grow and shift and change and accept who we are and promote our positivity and our culture and our ideologies, right? That is the only way you're going to see. But the point is, we have to keep reinforcing who we are, accepting who we are, educating on us and educating on and reinforcing us, right? And you have to accept yourself first, as the old saying says. Accept yourself first before anybody else can accept you. So yes, there may be small baby steps on the outside, right? You're seeing it in series like Dear Black People, no, Dear White People, sorry. You're seeing it in series like Dear White People, you're seeing it in film, art, television, but the more it continues to evolve and accept us, the more things change and the more we change with it. We just have to be very mindful of those who will be very adverse to those changes as we continue to stand in our truth and continue educating others about ourselves.
Thank you very much for that, Anna. Okay, and we have, I believe, last but not least, before we jump in. By the way, this is the end of the panel. No one leave. Niala will still be here with us, and Kyla will be going into our keynote speech for this evening, and it's a very interesting one. So stay locked to your computers. Yes, Laura Bell.
So when it comes to continuing to move this forward, for me, it's a lot about my son's generation. So, and the generations that come after him. So continuing to create spaces where Black beauty is celebrated in all its forms, not just our physical beauty, but our cultural beauty, and embracing. So my son is half Nigerian, so letting him see all the beauty of African culture, from our food to our dress to our music. All of that is so beautiful and so diverse. And it's important that he gets to see all the different versions of it. So for me, it's keeping it going with the next generation, because we will fade away at some point. And if they don't see the value in our beauty and they don't continue to hold the torch up, then we continue to fade away.
Okay, thank you. I guess your message got cut a little bit short there. So yeah. Okay, thank you. So did I not anybody, because I'm going up really quickly. I'm telling anybody, right? Good, awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating. Kyla, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce you.
Hello.
Okay.
How are you guys doing today? That's good.
So, Kyla, would you like to share your screen?
Of course.
Okay. So, you're a co-host, right? Me co-host. Okay. You should be able to share your screen now. Thank you so much, everyone. Kyla is here to give us some information. She's the commentator. She has a YouTube channel. She has an Instagram. Please make sure and follow. I will have it linked, and it's already linked in Black Lives Matter. Show support to Black women all year round, not just February. Great. Thank you so much, Kyla, and I will give the floor over to you.
Okay. 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 Let's see if it works. Okay. Cool. All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Kyla. I run a great page, I guess, to get me here. I run a page called Melanin Animate on Instagram where I discuss, educate, and show why Black representation in animation is so important and why it matters. So let's get into it. Let me get rid of this. Okay. So, like I said, I introduced myself. What Melanin Animated is, it is, again, an educational purpose, a showcase, and also letting people know what the importance of Black representation is in animation. I also created this page on Instagram just to show a safe space for Black voice actors and actresses as well. I also had created Black Voice Actor and Actresses of the Month, where I would showcase that we do have more than just the celebrity Black voices that you hear every day in animation. So I would definitely do that from time to time. Okay, so why is Black representation so important in animation? Well, for starters, we do not have a lot of representation. And if we do, they are usually side characters or background characters, or they play somewhat small roles in the show. But the goal is for our community when it comes for a positive change, but not a lot have realized it's more than just physical. It also needs to be 2D representation because it is needed. For anti-Blackness, which you all have been talking about, and animation do go hand in hand. And it may not seem bad in those quotes because it is cartoons, and to some people, cartoons are seen as childish. But it is a huge problem when it comes to the lack thereof and just why representation is not as big in animation. But it's getting there. I will talk about that later. It is definitely getting there. But I talk about in Melanin Animated the beginning to how we got here, because I do wholeheartedly believe that this, just like Black History Month and just Black history in general, there is Black animation history. So it's a big thing that needs to be talked about and educated, because there are some things that a lot of people don't know. A lot of people don't recognize, but they just think it's okay because they're Black people, and not knowing that they still basically, what is the word? Basically still benefit off our Blackness in a negative way, if that makes sense. So I want to talk about, the 1920s to the 1940s and how negative they were to our people during that time. If you don't know what that is, at the bottom of the screen is a sample character. And usually sample characters are drawn with very dark skin, big overdrawn lips, and their speech are very ignorant. And a lot of people don't understand when it comes to when white people or any person who is racist or sees negativity in our people or just our culture in general, I studied it as an obsession, because if you notice how, like Olivia was saying earlier, that they love getting everything that we have, but you hate it, right? That is an obsession, especially when you look at the little Sambo character who has overly drawn lips, right? And they would always call his big lip, hard R, and they would basically act as if that was, ugly, when it wasn't. It was something they want so bad. Like when you're being bullied and the person bullying you, they want what you have, but instead of outright telling you because of an insecurity that they have, they will make you feel less of what you have. But this is just 10 times worse, if that makes sense. So this is a Sambo character. And here is another character from Fantasia, the 1940s, from Disney. It was, got sidetracked. So Fantasia 1940s was one of Disney's many movies where they removed many inappropriate clips or images. One of them was named Sunflower. I guess recently, when it comes to Disney and Looney Tunes, Warner Bros., all of them, they removed a lot of racist, inappropriate imagery from their cartoons. But for me, I still think it's important to show it because it's very much not an apology, because you still did it. And people need to see that you can't just sweep it under the rug. You still need to talk about it. You still need to show this because it's a part of Black animated history. So Sunflower is a centaurette who was basically a mammy to the other centaurs who are sewn as beautiful, different colors. And then you have Sunflower. My personal opinion, I think she's adorable. They draw us in this way to make it seem like we're ugly, but we're not. I do have a problem with her chest being shown because it is unnecessary because the other centaurs, which I will show you, are covered up in that way. So, but unfortunately, she has been removed from the Fantasia movie. It's not on Disney Plus anymore. The only way I had gotten this clip is I had to very much go through the internet and look for it because they removed it. But as you could see, when it comes to the other centaurs and how they were just designed in this beautiful, God, I can't remember the word, but they're just decorated in this beautiful, like rainbow, different colors. And then you just had Sunflower, who was just ugly in that sense. So that speaks volumes. Okay. So the microaggressions within animated brown girls. Like I've said, I have been talking about this on my page for a while now. I basically introduce not just to Black women, but to show Black men and women of different color. I show them that why it's so important to pay attention to how Black women are being written and shown into animation. So probably a lot of you don't know, but growing up, if you grew up in the early 2000s, you probably heard of a show called As Told by Ginger, a series based off Ginger Fountley and her adventures of being a teenager. Well, the issue that I had with it was how they wrote Miranda Killigan in the series. I will definitely in the future for my page and for my business, I will be venturing towards YouTube and discussing why Miranda Killigan isn't what she was made to be or seem. So the thing was Nickelodeon had cut out a big chunk of what the show was supposed to be. One of the characters, Courtney Grippling, like I say at the bottom, was supposed to be gay. But at the time, Nickelodeon wasn't too fond of that ideal at the time. No network was at the time. But so that's why Miranda, her best friend at the time, was so harsh to her because Courtney's obsession with Ginger, which to me is pretty interesting how they didn't rewrite Miranda's whole character instead of making her pick on the poor defenseless white girl and making it seem like she's bullying her when in reality she's not. But I can go into further detail about that later. But I wanted to showcase how in the series, Ginger, when she was dating Darren, another Black boy, supposedly her best friend, she treated him like crap. It was an emotional roller coaster, but with their relationship, when Darren ended up dating Miranda, it was way more pleasant. It was more understanding. She was nice to him, and she was overall seen as a good person. Which is so interesting to me how they kept that part, but then moving forward, she was just written as a bully, if you will. Okay, so there's a picture. I'm just gonna show you just a quick clip.
Darren, can I talk to you for a minute? Racism. And it's not just because of side art either. Miranda, please let me finish. Courtney misses me. I miss everything. And the truth is, I don't want to have to pretend that I like Ginger sadly.
So, I guess this is goodbye.
Just so you know, all things considered, you're a pretty good boyfriend.
You aren't bad yourself, Shmoo.
Okay, let's go to the next. Okay, so the continuation of microaggressions within animated brown girls. So everyone knows and heard of the Proud Family, and recently it got a spinoff. Personally, I'm not a fan of the portrayal of how, one, they're perceived, two, how the girls are written to be, fast without any actual reason other than they're teenagers, which, I mean, they're still children. And finally, just how they drew Dejanay and how the creator responded when the spinoff was coming to fruition, like was going to come out this year. Well, the biggest issue is how the creator responded, because not only is the show dedicated and based off of a Black woman, you mistreated a Black woman in the question that she had about colorism in your show, because it's there. So in the next video, in the clip, I'm going to be showing you basically from a YouTuber called Elo, and she basically touched upon not only the colorism in the show, but also how the creator of the Proud Family responded to a Black woman asking him about colorism. So. Caricature of an argumentative, fat, dark-skinned Black woman, and at this point, it's intentionally to continually portray dark-skinned Black female characters like this. And when you look at the pictures, yeah, they did my booty wrong. Okay, people love to gaslight. Y'all, I'm looking at her because I got to do my wig, all right? But people love to gaslight. When we speak on colorism, people gaslight. It's like automatic. It's like, okay, let's talk about colorism. No, you're wrong. You're just mad because you're dark skinned. Nobody was right. You're not man. It's like, the conversation of colorism does not only center around the male gaze. That's number one. Like, it's literally dark skinned people being oppressed in all arenas. But we know that, right? At this point, y'all just gaslighted. But look at the picture. Let's say you never watched the show, and I get it, because some people, their emotion, their feelings are all tied, because it's like, oh, I watched the show growing up. I did too. And I loved the show growing up, I loved a lot of shows growing up that were problematic, but I mean, hey, no programming is perfect. I do want to say that. No programming is perfect. I understand that. But again, it is a reflection of the times. And as we progress and as times supposedly get better, we are supposed to do better as well with our craft, right? Look at the photos. Look at the photos. You have Penny Proud, the main character. She would be considered lighter skin or like lighter brown. And she's well liked. She's a very likable character. She does right by her family. She listens to her mother. She takes care of her siblings, right? So most people would identify with Penny Proud. I know I identified with the Penny Proud growing up, even though she didn't look like me. I identified with her just because of her character traits. But when I said things like that publicly in school, I was always reminded, like, well, you might be smart like Penny Proud, but you're dark skinned, so you can't play Penny Proud, but you can play Dejanay, right? And I'm like, and I think that it is important to have like a diverse group of Black girls on TV, right? Like, yes, absolutely. Like, the loud ghetto girl, she's important, right? The quiet nerd, she's important. The Afro Latina, she's important, right? So yes, these things are important to have. You know, we don't have enough positive portrayal of Black dark-skinned characters. So the little bit that we have, it's always negative. And it's like, okay, but like this time around, right? This time around, because you're doing it again, this time around, can we dang it, my battery died. Not sure where I left off, but y'all get what I was trying to say. We don't have enough positive dark skin representation. The Dijonais came in all skin tones. Like the Dijonais weren't just dark skin. Like, I don't know. Honestly, all the women on that show who were feminine, who were sweet, you know, who were good mothers and caretakers and smart and good students, studious, you know, they were all lighter skin. It just is what it is. Caretakers and smart and good students, studious, you know, they were all lighter skinned. It just is what it is. Like, I'm not about to sit here and argue with nobody. They just were. So Written by Ella then goes on to at the animator, and she says, at Bruce Almighty, answer my question. You are purposefully pushing colorist tropes and stereotypes years later, and this hasn't changed. And this was his response.
I would like to also add in that just because the creators that make these shows are Black does not mean they care about us. I've also run into other Black men in the animation industry and have shown me nothing but negativity. But I think that's personal issues upon themselves that has nothing to do with them or me. But I just wanted to add that in, that Bruce and there are others who don't really give two F's about representation, or they see it as a cash grab, because that's just what it is in this industry. This goes for celebrities as well. It's not what you all think that, oh, well, they're Black, so they support me. No, they don't. You have to understand, you have to support yourselves, because not everybody is in it to win it when it comes to the same pigment as you. Everybody else has their own things to worry about when it comes to representation, their own personal needs and issues. So I thought I'd just add that in.
Caretakers and smarter.
Come on. Okay. So the current state of Black animated media right now is going great. To me and probably everybody else who is in it, they're not, it's not enough. It is going great, but it's still never going to be enough. The shows that should be watched, especially if you're young and you have kids, Black boys, Black girls too, is Craig of the Creek. Another show that's coming out this summer, and it introduced the first Black female in the Marvel universe. It is Moon Girl, my spelling error, and Devil Dinosaur. And then another show that was announced like 2 years ago was My Dad the Bounty Hunter. And apparently, I don't know what happened after that. It just became really quiet when it came to that. And the short Hair Love that was premiered during the Angry Birds movie, it premiered before it. Now it's going to become Young Love, which is a series that was now created by Matthew A. Cherry. So there is always representation coming and going every day in the animation community. Every day, there's always something that's being created. There's for Craig of the Creek, there's a ton of writers and animators that are Black that help direct this show. So when it just comes to Black animated media, it's positivity, but just understand it's never going to be enough, especially after what we endured for all those 100+ years. Just know that when it comes to white people and how they want to perceive us and write for us, just know that when they say, okay, that's enough, it's not. Because they also want to be included into a narrative that they want to create for themselves, but it's don't ever fall for it. So I want to show a clip of Hair Love to those who may or may not have seen it, but it's wonderful. It's perfect. And I just want to share this with everyone who's here, just to show you where we are at right now when it comes to representation for Black and brown people right now.
Just took a little bit of work and a whole lot of love. Are you ready to do this? All right, here we go. Now, wasn't that easy? Now, wasn't that easy? All it takes is some confidence and a willingness to get started. And even though I'm not there, I'll guide you through this. I want to thank my very special assistant, my daughter, Sori, for helping me with today's vlog, like always. And remember, the road ahead might look rough, but you can make the journey with a little bit of work and a whole lot of love. Mwah. You want to moisturize beautiful thick curls from the condition, which will also help detangle the heat. Now, part all your hair into sections. Clip it away. That was so much fun. I knew you could do it.
So because of how well this did, it's getting its own spin-off series on HBO Max, like I said. When I don't know. But when you do follow my page, I will keep you more updated of when it will come. Okay, sorry. So in conclusion, like I was saying before, like we may have better representation with current and future animated shows that will be coming out with more and more Black writers, storyboard artists, animators, directors, producers, and more. It's still important to fight for representation. Just as we fight for in the physical and the present, like the live present for our upcoming shows, like what is that show called? It's with Quinta Burson and they Black Lady Sketch Show, stuff like that. It's still important to show Black animated media every day because it's not just for me, it's not just for you, it's for the kids. So they can see themselves in these characters without it having stereotypes or anything negative attached. So in conclusion, there's never enough representation, and we deserve it, no matter who says what, especially after all we endured. And that's it. That's really it.
Oh my God, thank you so much. Niala, how do you think about what did you think about that?
I really liked it. I really liked the video too. I've seen the video before, but it was really good.
Thank you so much, Kyla, Iman, for that wonderful, thought-provoking discussion. I think that I enjoyed it so much because as somebody who loves animation, I love cartoons. At my big age, I still prefer to watch anime than the average rom-com. And the thing is that animation is something that it ties hand in hand. I agree with you with anti-Blackness, with the invisibility of Black women and femmes and trans and beauty on the whole. We're invisible in it. And like, I cannot even express so much how you like really responded. Kyla is all the way from Denver, Colorado. So thank you for like doing this, navigating the time difference, navigating everything, putting together this amazing slideshow. I think we really appreciate it so much. Thank you.
You're so welcome. And thank you for having me. I really appreciate that. And I do applaud you all for what you're doing because it does matter. So thank you again.
Okay. Thank you. So I actually, before we go into the last part of this session, I would like to just mention that my mother is here, and I have not seen my mother in 2 years due to COVID, due to many other stuff. And of course, she declined to be monitor panelists because she hates to just be online and she hates to have any type of, she's very introverted. But today's her birthday, so I would really be happy if you could all like join in on singing a happy birthday, because I still don't know how old she is, but she will not tell us anyway. So happy birthday to, I know Leonard Anderson, by the way. Leonard Anderson in the chat. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear. Happy birthday to you.
How old are you now? She will answer that part. So,
21, she's 21. Leave it at that.
21 in puppy years. Oh God, do not do me anything. I'm sorry. I did not want to know. I didn't mean to say that. Okay, moving on to the next part of our address. Yes. Thank you all so much. Niala, do you have any closing thoughts to give to our wonderful panelists? Because we're gonna let Irene come on now.
Just thank you guys so much for being here and this opportunity.
Y'all all killed it. Any last thoughts? No. Okay then. Thank y'all so much. And now I would like to introduce Irene. Let me make sure I pull up Irene's information. And of course, I'm trying to pull it up on my phone now and it's not there, but that's okay. Irene, also known as Mezabeen Nahar Chaudhry. If I destroy that, I'm so sorry. My apologies. She is currently a third-year student pursuing a BSc in marine biology. She's also a treasurer with the Canadian Federation of Students of NL, and her passion includes working on community projects focused on education, health and well-being, and the financial literacy for women and marginalized groups, especially in developing countries. Irene is somebody who I had the pleasure of meeting at the CFSNL AGM, and she just immediately took me. She was so open, she was so warm, and I feel like as Black women, as women on the whole, we understand what it feels like to be excluded from these standards of beauty. So without further ado, I will have I'll introduce our wonderful Irene to give us some information on how she deals with deconstructing and decolonizing her perspectives of the Western standards of beauty in South Asian beauty. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Irene, everyone. I'm from Bangladesh. I'm an international student in Newfoundland, and I'm so grateful to be here. I love the conversation. This is one of my favorite conversations to have, especially surrounded by so many amazing and powerful women. Today, I'm going to give you a perspective about the South Asian communities. And we can go into a little bit about the history and our obsession with colorism. Colorism is very, very alive in South Asia. So I'm from Bangladesh. We share similar cultures and ideologies across Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, as well as all other nearby, for example, Nepal, Myanmar, as far as China and Japan and so on. So I'm just going to share my screen just because I want to show okay, I'm not sure if, can you see my screen yet?
I just had to make you a co-host, so now you're the co-host, so you should be.
Okay.
You may have to restart it because I just managed to make your co-host. Okay, good. It's working now. Yeah, I can see it. Are you speaking? Because you might be muted. Irene?
Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, 1 second, please.
Yeah, we couldn't hear you, but we saw it really well. Beautiful presentation.
Thank you. Can you see it now again, maybe?
Yes, we can. And we can hear you too.
Okay. All right. So as I was saying, that our obsession or the obsession with fair skin in South Asia stems similarly from the European settlers who came in and who came in the name of trade, but occupied the land and occupied our people and sort of made them into their slaves, made them work for their exports. So when my people saw that the people in power, the people who were telling themselves, proclaiming to be more knowledgeable, more advanced, they looked fair. They had less hair in their body. They had less hair or light hair on their body. They had a fair skin. So that made my people think that if I could get my skin to look lighter, if I could shave the hair off of, if I had a baby looking skin, then I could I could deserve to be in power. I could deserve a better life. I could deserve a better job. And this is what the British or European settlers were feeding the people of South Asia, that if you look like us, if you behave like us, if you dress like us, because they tried to, in a way, separate us from our cultural dress, the way we do our hair, the way we do everything pretty much to make us feel small, right? And that to this day is very much alive in our society back home, where fairness in the sense that a lighter skin is associated with success, while a darker skin is associated with less success and bad luck and dirty. That if the reason why you are dark is because you don't wash your face very well, is because you have dead skins on your face and things like that. So I'm just going to show, this is a very popular product back home, which is called Fair and Lovely. As you can see that it's showing that the two different portion of a model's face before and after, and that signboard is quite huge. It's actually in one of the very prominent places in my town. And it is very visible. And advertisers like that are throughout you will see that throughout towns, throughout cities, just bluntly being there, where majority of the people do not look like that. We are from a very warm place. Our skin tone is lovely brown. And majority, I would say 90% people I don't think it's scientifically or in a healthy way possible to achieve that fairness for people in Bangladesh. Of course, there are people from all over the world who are part of our diverse community, but for a person like me, using that product, it is not possible for me to achieve that unless I bleach my skin to the point that I do actually end up looking like that. And from a young age, actually, that is something that we are taught to groom ourselves to look pretty, and pretty is again associated with lighter skin. And as I relatively had a very darker skin than my peers, than my sisters, and for some reason I was never bothered by it. And I remember my mom and for some reason my mother was never bothered by it, but I remembered her one day coming home with Fair and Lovely, the product, and I was in 7th grade or something like that, and she said, maybe you could try this and see what it does for. I heard that this so and so was using it and they were seeing results. I was only 7th grade, and I mean, we all had been through our fair share of moisturizing. I don't know if it was just me, who my mom had to run after me to make me do these things. And of course, I didn't like the smell. I didn't like how it felt. So it has a dangerous bleaching agent, which is not good for your skin. But anyways, this is one of the best-selling product. It is a $1 billion industry in South Asia. So here's an ad that I have from this company that I would like to share. I don't know if you...
चाय और मिलेगी दूध नहीं है चाय एक पेंशन और सारे घर का खर्चा काश हमें एक बेटा होता चाय उन्हें देखो मैं बनूंगी बेटा एयर होस्टेस बदल गई दुनिया आपकी नई फेयर एंड लवली का फर्स्ट अट्रैक्शन पहला सनस्क्रीन धूप से बचाए दूसरा चिपचिपाहट घटाए तीसरा चेहरे से दाग हटाए और चौथा मिल्क प्रोटीन रात में अंदर से निखारे एक कप चाय मिलेगी ना चेहरे पे लिखे नई तरतीब नई फेयर एंड लवली पोस्ट एक्शन के साथ
I'm sorry I couldn't find an ad with subtitles, but this ad is basically a father is saying to the mom that we can't get our girl married because she's dark skinned and she's almost like a burden because we can't get her married and I'm getting old. I can't take care of her. So she cries and she tries to look for a job in a paper. And she sees that there is an air hostess job, but she believes that she can be an air hostess because she's not light-skinned. So she suddenly sees an ad, a fairness ad on TV, and she uses that product, and suddenly she is light-skinned, beautiful, which means that she is on the road to be successful. Therefore, she goes in an interview, and all the interviewers are amazed by how beautiful she looks, and she automatically gets the job. Their struggle with their financial struggle is all suddenly gone because she started using a fairness product and they live happily ever after. So this is basically the message that the girls in South Asia are getting. That the way you look has to do with the way you look has to do with how far you go ahead in your career, how educated you get, because there are many different ads like that where somebody doesn't get a job because of how they look, but they come back using that product and they get the job. There's another one where the university admission board is saying that she can be part of our elite school because she doesn't have the looks. So these are the messages that people are getting in South Asia, and they're doing all sorts of natural remedies, chemical remedies to achieve that look that is almost impossible to get. So I'm pretty sure, I don't know, I feel like, I don't know if this saying bothers you as much as it bothers me when we hear blondes have more fun or blue eyes have more fun. I mean, my blonde sisters by all means should have all the fun, but the narrative that blonde and blue eyes have more fun. It is very common for us to hear, and it's almost normalized to think that. So what it means for people like us back home who naturally have really, really, really dark hair. Like my hair is the darkest shade of black, and no matter, like I probably need to do 3-4 times bleaching in my hair to achieve even a light brown. So when I heard blondes have more fun, I thought that was very, very interesting, because I was like, so I wonder that's why all the Asian women are probably going through so much. Is that because they are not blonde or blue-eyed or fair skin? And that some of us are actually thinking, which is why we are probably going for that look or trying to achieve that look. Now, my next question to myself was, or to my people in general, that why this standards on beauty mostly placed on women, especially in South Asia. So for the longest time, because the patriarchy is very much alive in South Asia, women are still mostly homemakers. Their education is mostly up until as much as needed for them to be a mother, to be able to help with the children's homework. And most of them, they are dependent on a man, either their father or after marriage, their husbands. So they're almost looked as eye candies, whether they are people who work for you, whether they are your wives, whether they're your sister or daughter, because they are considered to be somebody else's treasure, like they need to be married off. So you look, or like the women are looked at as eye candies, therefore they need to be pleasant. And what is pleasant? Pleasant is, again, straight hair, fair, hairless body, and fair skin. And how is that affecting people of my generation back home? Is that do not go in the sun, like the things that we were discussing, do not go in the sun, do not wear white. I never had a white outfit my whole life up until I was 16 and I went to my exchange year in the US. That's the first time I bought a white t-shirt, because now I could finally shop for myself and nobody cares what I look like and what color made me look too dark. And if you look at my closet right now, 50% of my closet is just full white outfits, because I love how it pops my skin color. So these are some things that we growing up, we're told not to do. Don't wear white, don't wear yellow, don't wear too bright clothes, because it makes you look darker. It makes you look dull. Wear something darker. That's the sort of messages that we were receiving. So one of the things what I did after my exchange year in the US, during my time in the US, I was seeing, that's the first time I came across, like I saw African American people for the first time. I saw people of European descent for the first time, because that was my first time ever out of my community, out of my country. And I was sitting in a room and somebody said to me, how do you have the most beautiful skin? And I looked at Brown because I couldn't believe that she was talking to me. And I don't know how that transition happened, where I became so confident in myself that now I feel like the sun is probably my place to be, because it makes me look so radiant. It makes me just look beautiful to myself. And so when I went back home, I was trying to do different projects and involve in the community. And I would see that most of the times I was doing, like I said, I was very much interested in financial literacy and technology. So I was doing this computer course, free computer course for women. most of the times the parents would come up to me and say that, oh, do you have something for my son? I don't think technology is for girls or English language is for girls. And I was like, oh, no, it's just the free stuff is only for the course is only for the girls because I feel like they are the ones who are lacking behind. And most of the time when I would speak to them they would never participate in public speaking. They would be hesitant in job interviews and things like that. And most of that relate back to how they felt about themselves. And a lot of that stemmed to their skin color, their hair texture, their body type, and all of that. And I felt like that these beauty standards were almost standing as a barrier in how these women felt about this, because it was working. It was working for the people who wanted to keep us suppressed, who didn't want us to proceed in life, proceed in careers. Because if we became confident, if we knew we were enough for ourselves, if we know that we don't need them, they're scared of how we could rebel against this idea. And to this date, there is this fear that you would hear that, oh, this generation is too woke, that you can't even appreciate petite body type. Or can I just not say that I prefer a skinny women? Can I just not say that I prefer lighter women? Can I not just say that beauty is subjective and I just like a light-skinned petite woman for myself? So these type of conversation and this type of thing, it still exists in my generation or my people my age. So then now we all talked about, like, I would talk about these problems with my peers, and some of them would see it, some of them were like, well, that's how things have been. I don't know how we can deconstruct the Asian standards because they are ancient anyways. So I think that, or like my message is to the people who are watching, if they come from similar background with me, is that it is okay to challenge the things that we have been taught. It is not disrespectful. It is not saying that you are separating from your culture. It is not disrespecting your culture because it is not our culture. It is the patriarchy. It is the colonial standards. It is not what we believed in because that's not just who we are. Most of our people look like that. They have always looked like that. They will always look like that. Look like us, look like me. And I think we should all, the way we will be able to get over these ancient standards is when we accept ourselves, appreciate our people, appreciate the people around you, your mom, your aunt. They look like people in these pictures. Your sister, this is what they should look like. Whether they decide to go blonde or not, it is totally up to them. This is what normal people look like in back home. This is what do normal people look like? They look like your friend. They look like your neighbor. They look like your mom, your cousins. So my thing is that we relearn beauty, everything that we have been taught as children, and support each other in this journey because it has existed for generations. So it is not possible to be, deconstructed with its roots within days or weeks. But if we continue to support each other and keep spreading the message, it is possible. And taking the power back from people who won't let us progress is what I'm going to say would be my last thing. So thank you so much for listening to my perspective and our perspective of beauty standards. I feel like it is same throughout the whole world. just like I was listening to all the presentations from our Black sisters and brown sisters and sisters all over the world, the struggle is similar. Okay, so thank you so much for that. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much for having us here. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. And I feel like if, as somebody who grew up in Trinidad and Tobago, that it's something that I grew up with as well. So it's very like we have a very, the East Indian population in Trinidad and Tobago is very huge. Anna and Sparkle would testify to that. So thank you so much, Irene, for that. We cannot thank you enough for it. Thank you. So Niala, we're at the end. I can't hear you, honey.
I just wanted to say thank you for everybody for being here and being a part of this conversation. And I hope this is the start to a change and an acceptance. We should all be proud to be beautiful, strong Black women. Everybody have a great evening and night and a good weekend.
Thank you so much, Niala. You killed it. And you know what? Thank you so much. I can't agree with Niala. Actually, I have nothing else to add to that. She really just summed it up for us. Thank you so much, our panelists. Thank you much, our attendants. Happy birthday. And I really appreciate everybody being here and taking part in this. This brings us to the end of Black History Month, our Black Lives Matters Black History Month series, redefining our standards of beauty. It's been an amazing month and I'm so happy. I can be happier. So everybody give us a round of applause. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye. Wow. I hope you enjoyed this program. It was incredibly inspiring to make it, to be a part of it, to listen to all of the amazing contributions our panelists had to share. We hope that you enjoyed it, and we hope to see you again next year.
If you have a comment about